Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA AS Psychology 2017 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Attachment, which you need to know for AQA Alevel Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. In AS there are 12 mark questions, instead of 16 mark questions. For the purpose of this video and to avoid confusion for Alevel, the 12 mark questions have been turned into 16 mark questions. Question 1. Identify 2 infant behaviors that are characteristic of an insecure resistant attachment type. 2 marks. High stranger anxiety. High separation anxiety. A researcher is investigating gender differences in classification of attachment. They conduct a study using Ainsworth's strange situation. The results are shown in Figure 1 below. Figure 1 The proportions of boys and girls who are classified as securely attached. Question 2. Using the information in Figure 1, estimate the percentage of boys and girls that are securely attached. 2 marks. Boys equals. Girls equals. Girls equals 66%. Boys equals 34%. Question 3. In a different study, 150 children were classified as securely attached. Of these, 40% were boys. How many of the 150 children were girls? Show your workings. 2 marks. There are 150 children. 40% are boys, which means 60% are girls. Therefore, 150 times 0.6 is equal to 90. The researcher collected quantitative data using the strange situation. He then decided to collect qualitative data by conducting interviews with some of the parents of the infants. Question 4. Describe 2 differences between these types of data. 4 marks. Quantitative data involves numbers, whereas qualitative data involves words, e.g. quotes from the interview. Quantitative data can be measured objectively, whereas qualitative data is based on the subjective interpretation of language. Question 5. Outline Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation. 3 marks. Bowlby, 1951, proposed the maternal deprivation hypothesis, which suggests that attachment and care between an infant and their mother or mother substitute is essential for a normal and healthy psychological development of an infant, both emotionally and intellectually. Bowlby, 1953, proposed that a warm, intimate and continuous relationship with a mother is necessary for healthy psychological and emotional development, stating that mother-love infancy is as important for mental health as are vitamins and proteins for physical health. Infants who experience prolonged and continuous separation, where the infant is not in the presence of their primary attachment figure, and deprivation, the loss of emotional care that would normally be provided by a primary caregiver, are classified as being maternally deprived and are likely to also experience serious and harmful consequences to their social, intellectual and emotional development. Question 6. Explain 1 criticism of Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation. 3 marks. A limitation of Bowlby's maternal deprivation hypothesis is that it is deterministic. Bowlby's hypothesis does not specify how long the disruption of attachment has to occur for, in order for the disruption to be classified as maternal deprivation. This therefore assumes that any child experiencing disruption even for a short period during infancy may suffer from delayed emotional, social or intellectual development. However, Kagan et al., 1978, found no direct causal link between separation and later emotional and behavioral difficulties. This is a limitation because it suggests that there may not be a direct causal link between separation experiences during infancy and later emotional and behavioral difficulties, as indicated by the research conducted by Kagan et al., 1978. Question 7. Outline and evaluate the learning theory of attachment. 8 marks. Doland and Miller, 1950, behaviorists, proposed that caregiver-infant attachments can be explained by the learning theory also known as the cupboard love theory, where an infant learns to associate a caregiver with a feeling of pleasure when they are fed, classical conditioning, and an infant is reinforced in the behaviors that produce these desirable responses from a caregiver, operant conditioning. Therefore, children learn to love those who feed them. The learning theory suggests that in the case of caregiver-infant attachments, food serves as an unconditioned stimulus, UCS, to which a feeding infant has an unconditioned response, UCR, of pleasure. A caregiver starts as a neutral stimulus, NS, to which an infant has a neutral response, NR, of no response. When over time the same caregiver provides the infant with food, the caregiver starts to become associated with the food, until the infant views seeing the caregiver with the expectation that they will provide them with food, and the caregiver becomes a conditioned stimulus, CS, producing a conditioned response, CR, of pleasure. Through this process an attachment forms, where the caregiver becomes an attachment figure to the infant and the infant eventually learns to associate the caregiver with pleasure without the food needing to be present. The learning theory also suggests that this behavior from the infant is positively and negatively reinforced. When an infant is hungry they feel discomfort and pain and want to remove these unwanted feelings, so desire food, a primary reinforcer, something that naturally encourages behavior. They therefore cry, to which a caregiver responds with a comforting social suppressor behavior of feeding. The infant's behavior of crying is therefore positively reinforced, as they are rewarded with something pleasant, food. The infant's behavior of crying is also negatively reinforced, as the unpleasant feeling of being hungry is removed. Both of these increase the likelihood that the infant will repeat the crying behavior again. The child therefore displays proximity-seeking and attachment behavior with the caregiver as the caregiver becomes a secondary reinforcer, something that is associated with the primary reinforcer to encourage behavior, and a source of reward, food, and remover of unwanted feelings, hunger. The caregiver's behavior is also negatively reinforced. When the caregiver feeds the infant stops crying. The caregiver's behavior of feeding is therefore negatively reinforced, as the unpleasant sound of the infant crying is removed and the caregiver experiences parental relief. This increases the likelihood that the caregiver will repeat the feeding behavior again. This reinforcement is a two-way mutual process, which strengthens the attachment between caregiver and infant. A strength of the learning theory as an explanation of attachment is that it provides a plausible and scientific explanation of attachment formations. The learning theory is founded in an already established theory, as humans do learn from association and reinforcement. It is likely that there is an association between the provision of needs and the person providing those needs, leading to strong attachments. Furthermore, with the learning theory being based on behaviorism, it has supporting research. Pavlov demonstrated the process of classical conditioning in dogs and Skinner demonstrated the process of operant conditioning with mice and pigeons. This is a strength because it implies that the process of attachment formation is intricately tied to how individuals learn from their experiences and interactions, reinforcing the bond between meeting needs and developing strong emotional connections. With the empirical support from Pavlov and Skinner's research further solidifies the credibility of the learning theory in explaining the mechanisms underlying attachment in various settings. A limitation of the learning theory as an explanation of attachment is that it suggests that infants play a relatively passive role in the development of an attachment, simply responding to associations with comfort or reward. However, Feldman and Eidelman, 2007, found that babies take a very active role in the interactions that produce an attachment. This is a limitation because it suggests that the learning theory fails to fully capture the dynamic and active involvement of infants in the formation of their attachments, portraying them as passive recipients of conditioning rather than active participants in shaping their emotional bonds. A limitation of the learning theory as an explanation of attachment is that it takes a reductionist approach. The learning theory focuses on basic processes, with a stimulus and response link and reinforcement. This is too simplistic to explain complex attachment behaviors and ignores all cognitive processes emotions that influence attachment. This also cannot explain why attachment occurs, unlike Bowlby's monotropic attachment theory, which provides a more holistic explanation. Bowlby argued the advantages centered around protection and survival, which is more in line with our understanding of evolution. This is a limitation because it suggests that the learning theory's simplistic view, concentrating on stimulus-response connections and reinforcement, falls short in explaining the intricate attachment behaviors shaped by cognitive processes and emotions, unlike Bowlby's monotropic attachment theory, which offers a more holistic perspective rooted in evolutionary advantages related to protection and survival. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.